You walk barefoot across the polished jade floor, the cold seeping up through your soles. The air is thick with incense and tension. You are told you are entering paradise. But the paradise of the Son of Heaven is colder than any prison. Before we step deeper into this chamber of secrets, take a moment to breathe in the past. If you find beauty in uncovering the hidden rituals of empires long gone, give this story a like and let me know in the comments where in the world you're watching from tonight. It's haunting to think, from Beijing to Berlin, Lahore to Los Angeles, that we're all peering together through the same locked gates of the Forbidden City, chasing whispers that were never meant to escape. When night fell over the Forbidden City, it did not fall evenly. The lanterns of the inner court burned through the hours, casting soft, endless halos over red lacquered doors. Behind those doors, hundreds of women waited, perfectly still, perfectly silent. To be chosen meant honor. To be forgotten meant survival. The Imperial Harem was not a pleasure garden. It was an empire within an empire, built upon fear, superstition, and ceremony. At its height, the Qing dynasty's inner palace held nearly 3,000 women, all sworn to serve one man, the Emperor, the Son of Heaven, whose every breath was said to echo the will of the cosmos. Yet, the closer one came to divine power, the more terrifying the proximity became. Each evening, a eunuch would deliver a small ivory plaque engraved with the name of the concubine chosen for that night. The chosen woman would be bathed, perfumed, and wrapped in a single yellow sheet. She was then carried, literally carried, by 2 eunuchs to the emperor's bedchamber, her bare feet never touching the ground. Her arms were crossed upon her chest, her gaze fixed downward. She was not permitted to speak. She was not even permitted to turn. To outsiders, these acts seemed like signs of reverence. But within the Forbidden City, everyone knew the truth. They were born from paranoia. The emperor was the most powerful man in the world, and also the most afraid. For centuries, rulers of China had lived under the shadow of betrayal. Poisoned cups, hidden daggers, assassins in silk. Even the embrace of a concubine could mean death. So the rules evolved, or rather, metastasized. Every act of intimacy became a matter of statecraft. The bedchamber was patrolled by eunuchs, not lovers. The emperor's body was considered sacred, his breath a vessel of cosmic balance, his seed the anchor of the empire's fate. In the doctrine of Shengming, the mandate of life, the ruler's vitality was directly tied to the harmony of the heavens. To waste his essence, to let it fall outside the prescribed ritual, was to risk cosmic disorder. This belief gave rise to rituals so elaborate they bordered on absurd. Before each encounter, the emperor's pulse was measured. His robes, linens, and even the mattress were inspected by eunuchs. The temperature of the room, the scent of the incense, and the hour of union were all determined by astrologers. The act itself was catalogued like a military maneuver. Time of entry, duration, and the concubine's identity were recorded and sealed in the imperial archives. One emperor, Yongjing, a ruler both brilliant and cruel, took this obsession to new extremes. In the winter of 1725, he issued what palace records call the Night of Silence. On that night, not a single word was permitted within his private quarters. Not from the eunuchs, not from the concubine, not even from the emperor himself. Only the sound of the wind through the paper screens, the creak of the lacquered bed frame, and the faint rhythm of controlled breathing broke the void. According to one court attendant's memoir, Yongjung believed that speech carried spirits. To speak during the act, he feared, might invite ghosts of disloyal ministers or past lovers into his body. The concubine selected that night, Lady May, emerged pale and trembling. When a fellow servant asked what had happened, she replied, "He looked at me once, only once, and it felt as though the heavens stopped breathing." Such stories traveled quickly through the harem, half whispered, half believed. In these women's eyes, the emperor was both god and executioner, capable of raising a family to nobility or erasing a name from history with a single command. The eunuchs, castrated guardians of imperial virtue, enforced these rules with a precision bordering on zealotry. They recorded every movement, every hour, every deviation from ritual. Some became power brokers in their own right, holding the emperor's secrets in their ledgers like blades held to his throat. And yet, beneath this architecture of terror, something fragile survived. A concubine might whisper a forbidden name into her sleeve, or leave a single embroidered lotus on the edge of her pillow, a secret message to herself that she still existed. For all the empire's obsession with order, no rule could govern the quiet defiance of memory. By dawn, the emperor would rise, his attendants carrying away the sheets to be burned. The woman would be returned to her quarters, never to speak of what had passed. Her name might appear in a record, but her voice would not. The ceremony was over. The empire had been renewed for another night. But, in that silence, something darker lingered, an invisible residue of fear. Every flickering lantern, every breath of incense, every echoing footstep in the corridor was a reminder that the emperor's shadow reached even into the most intimate corners of the world. And as the first light of morning touched the tiled roofs of the Forbidden City, no one inside, emperor or concubine, could tell whether they ruled the system or whether the system ruled them. Moonlight bleeds across the lacquered floor, silvering the silk of a woman's robe. She kneels before the emperor's empty throne, not daring to raise her head, not daring to exist too loudly. The only sound is her own heartbeat, muffled beneath layers of brocade and fear. In the Forbidden City, silence was not the absence of sound. It was a language, a performance, a weapon. Every word spoken by a concubine was a surrender, not of thought, but of self. They were taught from the first night, never say I. To refer to oneself in the first person was a transgression, an act of rebellion against the divine order. Instead, each woman spoke of herself as this servant, or the lowly one. The emperor, meanwhile, was the Lord above, the dragon, or simply heaven. It was a linguistic cage so elegant, so complete, that even in their dreams concubines began to speak this way. Imagine the weight of that. To lose the sound of your own name within your own mouth. To hear it only when others whispered it behind closed doors, afraid of being overheard. The imperial tutors called it training in humility. The eunuchs called it discipline. But what it truly was erasure. A slow, deliberate fading of individuality until each woman became interchangeable, each voice a note in the same trembling chorus of submission. There was also the matter of the eyes. To look directly at the emperor was forbidden, save for the briefest instant of acknowledgement. His gaze was considered too radiant, too sacred, and too dangerous. Concubines were instructed to keep their eyes lowered, their faces turned slightly away, lest the Son of Heaven mistake their glance for desire, mockery, or witchcraft. This rule carved invisible lines through the palace. Rooms where men and women shared space became mazes of angles and shadows, everyone moving in deference to the emperor's unseen eyes. One wrong look could end a life. Yet, within this labyrinth of silence and control, rebellion took subtle forms. The women who could not speak found other ways to be heard. A flicker of a fan, a tilt of the head, the slow, deliberate folding of a sleeve, gestures that seemed harmless but carried coded meanings. A fan closed too quickly might mean fear. A lingering glance toward a moonlit pond might mean longing. The placement of a single plum blossom on a table could carry a secret message to another concubine across the courtyard. One of these women was known as Lady Yi, the silent concubine of Emperor Qianlong. Court physicians recorded her condition as an illness of the mind. She did not speak, they wrote, even when commanded. She would kneel for hours before the emperor, motionless, her lips parted as if about to answer, yet no sound emerged. Some said she had taken a vow of silence after witnessing another concubine executed for laughing during an imperial banquet. Others claimed it was the emperor himself who forbade her voice, believing her silence brought him luck. Qianlong was a ruler of refinement, a poet who believed beauty could be controlled like ink on silk. But Lady Yi unsettled him. Her quietness was too absolute, her stillness too knowing. During one winter audience, he reportedly asked, "Does this servant not wish to live?" She bowed lower, trembling, but her lips did not move. The silence stretched until the emperor dismissed her with a flick of his hand. Days later, Lady Yi was found fainted in her quarters, a half-finished poem hidden beneath her pillow. Its characters were faint, written with a fingertip dipped in tea. To speak is to vanish. To be silent is to remain. The eunuchs destroyed it, of course, but fragments of the verse survived in the secret notes of a palace scribe, a rare glimpse into the mind of a woman who refused to disappear completely. Within the harem, her defiance became legend. The concubines began trading verses disguised as embroidery patterns, hiding their emotions in the weave of silk. A crane might stand for hope, a falling petal for grief. When words were forbidden, the body became the canvas. Even a shared laugh, sharp, fleeting, quickly stifled, was a rebellion, a reminder that beneath the ceremonial mask, humanity still breathed. But laughter was dangerous. Too much joy invited suspicion. Too much individuality invited ruin. So the palace returned, night after night, to its choreography of silence, the measured footsteps of eunuchs, the rustle of silk, the soft thud of forehead against floor. And still the emperor's world was haunted by the ghosts of the women he could not truly see. Their silence became a mirror, reflecting his own isolation, his own fear of being known. When dawn came, the court musicians would play the Song of the Radiant Emperor. Its melody floated across the marble courtyards, serene and perfect. Yet, if one listened closely, beneath the flute and the drum, one might swear they could hear another sound, faint, rhythmic, like breath caught between sob and laughter, the sound of the empire holding its tongue. The wind whistles through the empty halls of the Forbidden City, lifting the edge of a faded silk curtain. Dust floats in the shafts of sunlight that pierce the windows, illuminating the echo of footsteps that no longer belong. You sense them everywhere. Women who lived, who obeyed, who vanished, yet whose presence lingers like a shadow no decree can erase. Even centuries later, these corridors seem to whisper. Before we step fully into their stories, pause for a moment. If the hidden lives of history captivate you, show your curiosity with a like and share in the comments where tonight you are watching from. From Tokyo to Toronto, Cape Town to Cairo, we are bound across time by the voices that refused to be silenced, voices that survived even when names were erased. When an emperor died, his women were expected to die with him, or at least to disappear into a world designed to erase their existence. Some were buried alongside him, living symbols of devotion, placed within tombs while still breathing. The faithful sacrifice was a ritual of spectacle as much as obedience, a performance of loyalty designed to demonstrate the permanence of imperial power. The women's screams, recorded only in fragments of forbidden texts, were muted by the ceremonial weight of duty. Others survived but were condemned to invisibility. They became nuns in distant temples, cloistered in silence, forbidden to marry or bear children, their bodies a testament to loyalty long after their personal identities were stripped away. Some were left within the palace walls, wandering the corridors like ghosts, carrying knowledge too dangerous to be spoken aloud, observing the new emperor while erased from the official narrative. These living ghosts became witnesses, archivists, and sometimes the silent arbiters of palace politics. Senior concubines held unique and terrifying power. They governed the hierarchy of the harem, mediated access to the emperor, and even influenced succession. In subtle ways, they became kingmakers, wielding the very protocols meant to break them as tools of authority. Their eyes, trained in decades of obedience, could detect a lie before it was spoken. A tilt of a head, a faltering step, a delayed bow, all could shift favor or seal a fate. Their knowledge of the emperor's preferences, moods, and secrets made them indispensable and dangerous. And yet, for every rule imposed, women found a shadowed corner to reclaim autonomy. They communicated through embroidery, weaving messages into the folds of silk, a lotus for hope, a falling leaf for despair, a single crimson thread for defiance. Poems were hidden in the hems of garments, meant to be discovered only by those who knew how to read between lines. Gestures, the flick of a fan, the precise angle of a kneeling head, became an intricate lexicon of rebellion. Even laughter, carefully stifled, could ripple across a courtyard like a secret tide. The story of Lady Yun exemplifies this silent defiance. Though officially relegated to the back quarters after her emperor's death, she secretly preserved records of the harem's inner life. She memorized the arrangement of court gardens, the favored recipes of the emperor, the hidden pathways connecting chambers, and the precise rhythm of ritual movements. With ink and silk scraps, she encoded these memories into what she called her shadow archive, a testament to the harem that no eunuch or official could ever destroy. Generations later, scholars would unearth fragments of her notes, piecing together lives that history had tried to forget. Even as dynasties rose and fell, the women's subtle acts of resistance shaped outcomes. A senior concubine's discreet counsel could sway appointments, prevent injustices, or preserve alliances between palace factions. Their influence was invisible yet decisive, embedded in a lattice of coded language and ritual compliance. These were women whose survival required mastery of silence, yet whose mastery of subtlety became a quiet revolution. And still, the legacy of the harem was double-edged. To the outside world, concubines were ornaments, their lives bound to vanity and desire. But within the walls, they were historians, diplomats, and spies, custodians of secrets whose ripple effects shaped the very course of empires. For centuries, they ensured that the voice of a woman, though forbidden to speak aloud, would never be fully extinguished. The sun sets behind the imperial rooftops, casting long shadows across the courtyards. A soft wind stirs the fallen petals of plum trees, carrying them across empty corridors. Somewhere in the palace, a folded silk fan rests atop an embroidered pillow, its design a cryptic message of hope and memory. No one will read it today. Perhaps no one will read it for 100 years. Yet its existence is enough, a reminder that the rules meant to erase life could not erase legacy. And as the city exhales into night, the ghosts of forgotten women remain, weaving stories into shadow, their whispers hidden but never entirely silenced. They endured, they resisted, and their empire of quiet power still lingers, waiting to be uncovered by those who dare to look closely enough.